We are worried about Inec's role, flowing from what they have done in Edo. So the question we're asking ourselves is, what can we do to guarantee a more fair, efficient electoral management? We have said that you cannot have Inec appointed by the president executive and expect that they're going to be that independent. Now we are seeing an emerging trend where Inec is now, new Inec will be probably made up of directors, ex-directors, civil servants who have worked in Inec, and that poses more danger. We've seen the two nominations. We are hearing the story that one of the former rec at Lagos, Edo, is going to be the chairman. Now, what we are seeing is a complete takeover of the electoral management body in a way that you can't even guarantee any procedure. That's number one. Number two is that we are saying that, like somebody said here, that we should pay more attention to the procedure of electoral management. Make it more participatory, clear, nothing is left for chance, and the ultimate is that results will be declared of the polling unit, transferred electronically, and we know, and we should use collection as a procedure to subvert real results that are harvested at the polling unit. Now, Edo election tells us, now we have seen that the Edo result was declared with result different from IREF. IREF had about 8,000 difference. The result declared was about 42,000 difference. Now, it means that at the minimum, there was no clear winner with all the overvoting, all the results that should have been cancelled. Two, even now, the results from the IREF and the certified true copies are different results. So the question then is, if results are declared and uploaded, and then the certified true copy request is different, how should we ensure that this new slippery slope of incredible results, look at where we're coming from. 2019, you mentioned it, issue was server. 2033, issue was IREF was shut down. Nobody has told us why it was shut. In 2024, with Edo, we are still talking about results being different, posted different results, declared different results, and now tendering different results. So the view of the Abuja school is that the courts now, INEC has done their job in Edo, we are now before the court. How should the judiciary manage this? And it's very clear that the court should have, somebody mentioned the issue about activism, the court should have the courage to reject results that show clear that they are manipulated. The court may not pronounce a winner. The court can remand those results to INEC to take consequential action. Look, I like the word somebody used here. He talked about judicial deterrence. The reason why politicians are now more heroic in manipulating the electoral system, it happened in Edo, it happened in 2027, is that there's no deterrence for electoral offenses and manipulation. If the courts, imagine if the court had nullified 2023 election, for example, without the money politicians have spent, everybody will be careful to rig again. This is my theory. If the courts cancel elections where politicians have spent billions to rig, they will be less inclined to bribe either INEC or police for electoral results, knowing that ultimately those results can be cancelled. So I want to see the court exercise more capacity to second guess this INEC's manipulated election. If Edo says true, as Kogi said true, as Simo said true, 2027, you can't guarantee participation. You're talking about low voter turnout. Why will voters go? Look at the number who voted in Edo. About 20% of elected voters. Now, it will go to 10% in the future because the moral climate now is that nothing can be done. Yes. They capture INEC. They capture the police, like I said in the first place. I said the strategy to rig election to win is capture INEC, capture judiciary, capture the security. Now, if this capture is complete, because the courts are not cancelling bad results, there will be nobody who will go and vote. So the Abuja school says, like he said, deepening democracy or even consulting democracy in Nigeria will require some institutional revision that allow for some faith they will start doing the work of deepening democracy. They will start mobilizing citizens. They will start building political parties. If there's total impunity, it was incentive for parties to care about internal democracy. When they should be thinking about buying the process, where is the incentive for you to go and educate voters when you know that ultimately outcome depends on who will buy Inec and buy judiciary? We have to break that immunity structure to begin to revise democracy and build support. So the Abuja school will not relent. We're still having this conversation. Yes. We agreed the last time to have a small group to look at the National Action Plan. We want to provide a plan that says this is what should be done, this is how it can be done. Yes. Yes. We look at the procedure of electoral reform, say this is the one for judiciary, these are steps you can take, this is the one for political parties, these are steps you can take, this is the one for civil society, so that somehow we will escape this prophecy of doom in 2027. So I want to thank everybody for. We are trying to create, okay, that's a power problem, but you can structurally mitigate that power problem. If, for example, your friend's continuation does not depend on reappointed by or whatever, probably he would have listened to you and stick out his neck to do the right thing. So what I say is that somebody who's appointed in a particular way has more resilience and immunity, so to say. It doesn't guarantee, because our social factors, cultural factors can make people voluntarily enter into captivity. Because there are people who have tenure, judges, for example, who may not be removed, but they will voluntarily chop money. But it's possible that if somebody is appointment is based on a different metric, that people who emerge will be less in bed with political actors and more possibly help us in this constitution of power. So it's not a zero. So it's not like, okay, once we bring these guys who are independently appointed, they will suddenly become moral champions. But it's like maybe the structural changes may help them withstand this kind of pressure.
Yes, in a way, I agree with you.
Some of us went against it then, and we said let it be NJC based on waste report. But today you also agree that waste NJC is on. So at what point, who should be the appointed power? I've come to the final conclusion, maybe it's not yet final, that we must put strategy in place, not to look at the people running the affairs of election, but to look at the process that turn up results for the elections. What am I saying? It doesn't matter who is INEC's chair. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who is the rec of INEC. It doesn't matter. What matters is that the people become the owner of the electoral process. Just as the election came out from the United States, even before it was officially announced, for your information, it has not been officially announced. The US election is not officially announced, but we already, because until Congress meet and there's a presentation of the Electoral College and there's an approval, it's a process. It's a process. But the people conducted the election. And how will the people conduct the election? By putting systems in place that when election holds in polling unit 1, the results of polling unit 1, it's not just by way of paper alone. People have criticized electronic transmission of results because of, it's okay to criticize electronic result because electronic transmission of results because of the possibility of hacking. But I have an alternative. There is no way, as already alluded by the convener, that if you have an INEC chairman, even though you sack all of these national commissioners, you sack them today, and you appoint us in this room, there will be error. That is when you start saying, see, Dr. Sam Amadi, he has changed. He has not changed. There are forces. How will someone like a Taisolari eventually fail in a failed bank, in the People's Bank? There are systemic challenge that needs to be addressed, and you need systemic solution, not the people. I've taken my position away from the people to systems, and you can call it system theory. And what am I talking about? As we head to future election, not although will not solve what I'm going to propose, because the system is still the system now. As what presents to us an opportunity is the electoral reform. We need a huge organizing, the convener leading all of us, taking it that we need to reform the election result process. And how do I mean? We already have electronic means in our electoral act. Unlike in the 2015, where there was no smart card written in the electoral act. Now we have technology embedded in our act, which means there's a legal form. So we have a beavers. And the beavers' work is to snap the result sheet of the Form C8A at the polling unit level and then upload that for the people to see. We thought we have gotten to a level where we can rest, but it's not yet, aluta continua. It's not yet to roll. But what am I saying in essence? We need a system that has an electronic voting and transmission of results. But there's a caveat. If you go to collect money at a POS machine, you get a receipt, true of us. You get a printout. That printout becomes your ballot paper. You have that ballot paper stick into the ballot box. After the election is over, the polling is over, we tally both the electronic and the paper, the ballots. When it agrees, you send the one electronically. You can send it to a portal that shows to everybody in the world. You don't need human error. I tell you, the greatest challenge in our electoral system is the collation process. It is an opaque system that we cannot resolve in this room or this year. Why I say it is this. When polling happens at the polling unit, that result can be changed at the collation point. Those who voted are no longer there. And you ask me how. If there's an error, just one error, that result from the polling unit can be classified null and void. It is in a legal regime. It's allowed. It's legal. So where there are differentials in the number of ballot paper issued and ballot paper used, where there are differentials, the returning officer at the ward collation level can declare that result invalid and push it aside. Whereas there's a party already winning, who are thought they had won. That result is no longer added. There's another side of it. Today, Inec has actually dropped some, I don't want to speak about some legal issues around the CTC done by our friend, but it's also that there are evidence that suggests that Inec had downloaded or removed certain results on the IRF, make some correction and uploaded it. It is not the first time. It happened in Edo 2020.
It happened in Edo 2024.
It happened in Edo 2024. So you just go, because there is no system in place or no policy in place to check what can be removed and re-uploaded. If we don't put those in place, we are going nowhere. But I'm not even asking for that processes now. Let's forget about that process. Get the results and the polling unit, hard copy, collect normal collation, APC, PDP, ABGA, Labour, do all the collation, go on the electronic one and do your tabulation. It electronically tabulates. And when that is done, you press the send in the presence of everybody, recognizing that the result sheet from EC8A agrees with what is to be sent, and you snap and you have a valid result. So the one, no error of manipulation, no error of tabulation. It will reduce the cost that we spend on elections. Let me quickly give you a metaphor before I move on. In 2019 election, of course, 2023 election, you can do the math. Particularly 2019 election, there were over 80 million registered voters. And Inec will usually print over 80 million, let's say 100 million. And those ballot papers are currency level ballot papers with some features, security features because of theft or manipulation and all of that. If you look at the results of the 2019 election, the total number of people who voted, cancelled, rejected, were less than 30 million. In all essence, we burnt about 70 million ballot papers. Imagine that one ballot paper costs 10 naira. Do the maths. We literally burnt 10 naira times 70 million sheets. Whereas this country is suffering educationally, health-wise, and all sectors. And yet we spend huge amount of money on an election that is disputed. We've got to reduce the cost of election. We've got to make the process in a way that is seamless. We've got to have a dashboard that tells us who is winning. We don't have to rely on one individual called returning officer or scope at the state level who determine the cost of all our voting. At the end of the day,